everyone, this is Osgold Buck, and I'm here to teach you how to play like B.B. King. So, I guess in order to really sound like B.B., you have to kind of have the tools. So you need a guitar that kind of matches B.B.'s tone. Guitar such as this one, which is a semi-hollow body guitar with humbucker pickups. And you probably want to use some sort of tube amp with a touch of overdrive. And when you play, you want to get that kind of warm singing tone that he has. And that would mean playing with the neck pickup or a combination of the neck and middle pickups. So that being said, let's get started with some examples. The first thing I want to bring up is this hybrid scale that B.B. uses. And basically, it's a combination of the major pentatonic scales and the minor pentatonic scales. And he has one particular fingering that he likes to use a lot. So what I want to do is just cover the two basic scales in this position. We're going to be in the key of G, and then I'll show you the hybrid scale that he uses. The G minor pentatonic would be the position starting on the 8th fret, and it's here. And then he combines that with the G major pentatonic basically in the same position. So here's the G major pentatonic in the same position. This one starts on the 7th position. So what he does is he combines these basically in the top 3 strings on the G, B, and E strings. And you basically have this kind of hybrid scale pattern. The G hybrid scale on the top 3 strings sounds like this. Now that sounds pretty funky in and of itself, but the beauty of it is when you start combining these notes with bends and slurs and trills the way B.B. does, and then you get an idea of the beauty of this scale. So right off the bat, and this is what kind of separates B.B. from most blues guitar players, is that he really rides the major component of the blues, where a lot of guitar players such as Albert King or Buddy Guy, they're kind of like really stuck in that minor pentatonic vibe. B.B. interjects a lot of the major elements, and that's what gives him that unique sound. So here's one of B.B.'s famous licks that utilizes this major concept, again in the key of G. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so classic B.B. I think you may have noticed that I also did a vibrato that is typical of what B.B. does, and that is kind of what people call his bee-sting vibrato. Basically, he takes his first finger and he shakes it really quickly. It's different from, again, most blues players who do the kind of clapped-in, slow hand kind of thing where they're doing that kind of thing. B.B. is much more, it's much quicker and almost manic in the way he shakes his index finger back and forth. Now, again, whereas most blues guitar players vibrato from the whole wrist, B.B. kind of pivots with his knuckle here and shakes the first finger back and forth, or the third finger back and forth very quickly in an up and down motion. So it gets this kind of like very fast kind of vibrato. He developed that because his cousin, Bukka White, who was quite a famous blues guitarist in his own right, old school guy, played slide, and B.B. couldn't find a way to play a slide. So he tried to emulate the sound that his cousin would get with his fingers, and that's how he developed his vibrato. I just played a figure that showed B.B.'s major pentatonic component. Now what I'm going to do is do another lick that B.B. does, basically with the same melodic contour, but this time he uses the minor pentatonic scale. And it's the same phrasing just about, The tricky part is that there's a bend with the index finger, but we're still in the same position, and instead of the major pentatonic scale, we're going to be using the minor pentatonic scale. Okay, so it's the same contour. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. You could see that quite a different flavor, but pretty much the same idea. And this is the foundation of what BB does in this position. He weaves in and out of the major and minor components. So now what we're going to do is we're going to combine both the major and minor components and play one of BB's really classic licks. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. In that last example, you saw me bend the D to an E, and then which is a whole step, and in that G major pentatonic vibe. But then I bent the A to a B flat, which is a G minor pentatonic. So you see, he combines the G major with the G minor pentatonic, giving him that unique sound. The next example takes it a step further. Whereas in the previous example, I bent the D to an E, this time I'm going to bend the D to an F. I'm going to bend it up minor third. And it's important, BB's got big hands and basically a lot of strength in him. So you should use supportive fingering. Use your index and middle finger to support the third finger and really yank that string up to the F. So you're going to, if you can't hear the pitch, you may want to play the pitch first. Play it here, and then you'll have a target note in which to bend it to. BB loves this move. This is one of his best known moves, and he always calls it the wake-up call to the band. When he bends that up a minor third, the whole band just kicks into overdrive. It's a very cool move. And he sits on it. So you may want to practice keeping it in pitch just by doing it over and over and over again. And eventually you're going to get the vibe. 1, 2, 3. So this next example is a variation on the previous one. Another great BB lick. This time bends up a minor third, releases, bends up a minor third, releases. Again, kicks the band into overdrive with this one. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to play one more example. This time I'm going to do the same concept, but in the third position. So we're going to combine that G minor pentatonic scale and this G major pentatonic scale. And this lick is a classic B.B. King intro. He usually plays this on Sweet Little Angel. And what he'll do is the first bend will be up to the major third, and then he'll switch to the minor pentatonic and sit on the minor seventh. Very cool sound. 1, 2, 3. Another blues form that BB plays is what's known as the minor blues. This is a little different than the major or dominant blues that pretty much is the majority of blues forms out there. This is played with all minor chords, and as such makes it a little difficult to combine the major and minor pentatonic concept that BB does. So in a case of a minor blues, such as a song like Thrill Is Gone, BB will stick strictly with the minor pentatonic scale, but yet at the same time, his phrasing is still tight and precise, and the vibrato's right there. So if there's an example where BB plays two roots adjacently, instead of doing something like this, he'll go, and that gives it more of a kind of human voice-like quality. So this is something along the lines of what BB might play over a minor blues. The other thing that's really hip about BB is the scope of his influences. He listened to many, many jazz musicians, jazz horn players, as well as blues guitar players that came before him. One of his big influences was a guy named T-Bone Walker. And the lick I'm about to play, you probably recognize, I mean, every single blues guitar player has played it. And BB plays it too. You hear Stevie Ray do it in Texas Flood. So in a way, this is kind of like the classic universal lick that you could use as an intro or as a turnaround. One cool thing to note about this lick is that BB adds the 9, and of course T-Bone Walker added the 9 too. In the key of G would be the A. And this extra added note gives the lick a less obvious, typical blues sound, gives it more of an uptown kind of groovy sound. So here it is. 1, 2, 3, 4. As I mentioned, BB has a lot of influences, and one of BB's main influences is the kind of horn band exemplified by Louis Jordan, where it's a groovy, big horn band, and it's jumps and swings, and kind of like what Brian Setzer is doing today. And one of the moves that BB got from that horn band concept was, after playing a single line, he'll play a high octave. And that high octave mimics the horn stab that, like for example, the horn section of Louis Jordan's band would do. So here's an example of that in the key of G. 1, 2, 1, 2. Another musical influence that BB draws upon is the New Orleans style of piano, exemplified by guys like Professor Longhair. And again, it's a combination of doing the major-minor pentatonic thing along with adding double stops. So double stops are just two notes played together. In this case, he'd be using double stops drawn from the G Mixolydian scale, which is just basically a G major scale with a flatted 7th. So it'd be this kind of thing. And the cool thing that the New Orleans piano guys would do is they would approach some of these double stops chromatically. So it'd be this kind of thing. And on guitar it sounds cool, but on piano it sounds much hipper. So BB would incorporate this kind of move along with his pentatonic ideas, and you'd get something like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. I hope that gives you a little bit of insight into the style of B.B. King. The best thing I can suggest is just listen to his records, listen to his melodic ideas. They're deceptively easy. You know, you don't think there's a lot of stuff going on there because maybe he's not playing fast or not a lot of chops, but if you listen to the nuance and to the phrasing, you'll see there's a wealth of riches, and I really suggest you study his style because, man, it's going to make you much, much better, not just a blues guitar player, but a guitar player, period. Catch you next time.